Okay. Good morning, readers. The word for the day is determination. Okay, determination. The story I'm going to share with you now is a story that I think it has some problems, but I can't stop thinking about this story. Okay, this story is actually a native story, and it's called The Little Hummingbird. And the funny thing is, I can't stop thinking about it. I keep thinking about it because I think, it is such an interesting story. And the art is very interesting. The art is actually very typically native. Like this is like North American Indian. The way they did the hummingbird, okay, and the way they did the bear, it's not very realistic. It doesn't look like a real hummingbird or anything like that. And all the animals in the story are like that. Okay. I think that's a problem. I think it actually makes it harder to connect to the story. But the story itself is fascinating. Okay. It's a really fascinating story. And it's written, let's see, who's it written? I think it's Michael Nicole Yagulanas. Okay. Now, see, all the animals have that stylized look to them. I think that's an owl. That's an owl. There's the eyes. So it's very unusual, but the story itself is incredible. Okay, let's see. And there's a dedication. It says to the indigenous peoples of East Africa, the South American Altiplano, and the Northern Pacific Islands. You who have done so much for so long. Yeah, you see, this art is like the like Northern Pacific native, like like on BC, those kinds of natives. They would have this kind of art. Now that's the hummingbird. Okay. That's a hummingbird. Very stylized. Okay. Here is the story of the great forest that caught fire. Okay. So that's the forest catching fire, I think, and that's the hummingbird. The terrible fire raged and burned. Okay, there's the fire burning. All of the animals were afraid and fled from their homes. The elephant and the tiger ran. The beaver scurried and the frog leapt away. Above them, the birds flew in a panic. Okay, that's the frog, I think. No, no, there's the frog. And that's the elephant and that's the is that the tiger? I'm not sure. That's the beaver. And those are birds up there. Okay. So all the animals are running away from the great, terrible fire. Okay. And fire is a reality. It happens. The creatures huddled at the edge of the forest and watched, all except for one. Okay. Like that's an eagle, that's a squirrel. I'm not sure what that is. And that's a heron. So all of them watched except for one. Little Hummingbird did not abandon the forest. She flew as fast as she could to the stream. She picked up a single drop of water in her beak. Okay, there's the little hummingbird. What's she gonna do? Hmm? Little Hummingbird flew back and let the water fall onto the ferocious fire. Okay, so she's she's taking a single drop. That's all she can carry because hummingbirds are very small. She dashed to the stream and brought another drop, and she continued back and forth, back and forth. The other animals watched little Hummingbird, and they were frightened. What can I do? Sobbed Rabbit. This fire is hot, and I am scared. This fire is so big, howled Wolf, and I am so small. I can't do anything about this fire, croaked Frog. Now, all these animals are larger than Little Hummingbird. Okay. Little Hummingbird is the smallest out of all of the animals. And the other animals, wolf and frog and rabbit, they're all saying, oh, what can I do? I'm too small. My wings will burn, cried Owl. Like there's Owl. And she's saying, I can't do anything. My wings are going to get burned. Little Hummingbird continued her work. She flew quickly, picking up more water and putting it drop by drop onto the burning forest. Finally, Big Bird said, Little Hummingbird, what are you doing? Okay. There's Little Hummingbird, and there's Bear. So the bear says, what are you doing? Little Hummingbird looked at the other animals. She said, I'm doing everything I can. Now, that's profound. If you think about it, she's got the one drop, and she says, I'm doing everything I can. So the message of this is do the best you can. Now, yeah, there's a big, long couple of black matter at the end of the book. But the story is done. That is the story. What do you guys think about it? And this time, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to record the things you say in terms of the discussion we're going to have, because the story is very short, okay? But it's beautifully written. I love the way it's written. It's written with so much power. The story has so much power. In fact, it's so short, I could read it to you again. Okay, so let me read it to you again. Just enjoy the language he uses. I mean, it's an amazing story. Here is the story of the great forest that caught fire. The terrible fire raged and burned. Oh, I love that. Raged. The word raged, it just sounds like a fire, doesn't it? All of the animals were afraid and fled from their homes. The elephant and the tiger ran, the beaver scurried, and the frog leapt away. Above them, the birds flew in a panic. Now, if all of the animals got together and did something, do you think it would have made a difference? Taha and Isra, what do you guys think? You have your hands up. You can unmute yourself.
What does rage mean?
Ah,
Like,
raged is actually means anger. Like when you're in a rage, it's like you're so angry, you're stomping around and you're ready to hurt someone. Okay. That's rage. So the terrible fire raged and burned. Okay. Now, okay, so all the animals, like, do you think the elephant could have done something with his trunk and the tiger? Those are much bigger animals, but they just ran. Okay. And the beaver and the frog just leapt away. So none of the other animals did anything. The creatures huddled at the edge of the forest and watched, all except for one. The only one who didn't was the hummingbird. Sorry. Yes. Yes.
what is this?
Sorry, Fatima? Okay, so little hummingbird did not abandon the forest. She flew as fast as she could to the stream. She picked up a single drop of water in her beak. Little hummingbird flew back and let the water fall onto the ferocious fire. There's the drop of water. She dashed to the stream and brought another drop, and she continued back and forth, back and forth. The other animals watched little Hummingbird, and they were frightened. What can I do? Sobbed Rabbit. This fire is hot, and I am scared. This fire is so big, howled Wolf, and I am so small. I can't do anything about this fire, croaked Frog. Okay, so all the animals are just sitting there doing nothing. Okay, they're complaining. I hate complaining, don't you? I hate it. My wings will burn, cried Owl. Okay. So Owl said, I'm not going to do anything. My wings are going to get burned. Little Hummingbird continued her work. She flew quickly, picking up more water and putting it drop by drop onto the burning forest. Like she doesn't stop even though the animals aren't doing anything. Finally, Big Bird said, Little Hummingbird, what are you doing? And Little Hummingbird said, Little Hummingbird looked at the other animals. She said, I'm doing everything I can. Okay. So in life, there are going to be those people when they have a problem, when they face something really dangerous, they're going to get up and they're going to do what they can. They might be small. They might be weak. And while they're doing something, there are going to be other people who saying, I can't do anything. They're just going to be going, oh, I'm complaining, complaining, complaining. That's determination. Okay, that's determination. Determination means firmness of purpose. It means when you decide to take a course of action and you stick to it. Okay, that's determination. So the hummingbird has determination. The other animals just sit there and complain. That's what the point of the story is. Now, is little hummingbird actually doing any good? What do you think? Is she doing any good? Hmm? What do you think? Is she doing any good?
She's, she's doing something good. What person are you talking about?
Yeah, she's at least doing something, right? Um, what do you think of the story? How do you feel after I read the story? Mariam,
Good, good,
you feel
good.
good. Yeah, isn't it an interesting story? And it's a native story. It has a lot of wisdom in it. But I don't know how to feel about it because part of me thinks, yeah, what is a drop of water on a forest fire going to do? It's not going to do anything. Okay. But the idea is not just that it's such a little amount of water. The idea is the determination that this hummingbird is trying to change their circumstances. Well, they're facing a problem and they're trying to do something about it. Even if it's not a lot, they're still trying to do something. Whereas the other animals are just sitting there, um, they're just sitting there complaining. And what would happen if all the other animals joined in and tried to help too? What do you think would happen? Any ideas?
The fire will go out.
Yeah, I think if all of the animals pitched in, maybe they could have done something. And maybe that's the point of the story. That the hummingbird is the only one that's even trying. Okay? She's the only one that's even trying. And the other animals aren't doing anything. They're just sitting there complaining. The elephant said, oh, the wolf said, I'm too small, I can't do anything. But all of them could have done something. But the hummingbird is the only one doing anything. And I actually think that when you're faced with a problem, if you take the initiative, remember initiative was one of the other words we did. Actually was the first word we did was initiative. And that was from the Great Blueness. That scientist took initiative. Okay. He saw a problem that the whole world was gray, black, and white. And so he took initiative. Okay, Fatima, what would you like to say? You can unmute yourself. Yes, Fatima.
I love the story.
You like the story?
Yes.
Me too. I really like this story. But what about the pictures? Hmm? You like the pictures?
Yes.
Yeah, you like the pictures? I don't. I think if the book had pictures that were less stylized. Okay, this is called a stylized picture. It's not like a realistic picture. But if the book had less stylized pictures, I think the story would have been it would have been better. Okay. I think it would have been better because that you can't even tell. Sometimes you can't even tell what the animal is. Like that, I think is an eagle. Okay, that's like an eagle, right? That's a squirrel. You can see that that's a squirrel, and that's like and that's the frog. Okay. So sometimes it's even hard to tell which is the animal that it's talking about. I think that's like a crow. That looks like a crow. And then this, I'm not even sure. That maybe that's a badger or something. I'm not sure. That does look like an elephant, or and I can't find which one is the tiger. One of them is supposed to be a tiger, unless it's this one. That might be the tiger, but to me, that doesn't look like a tiger. So I found the illustrations confusing and a little distracting from the story. The story itself is quite amazing. It's so short, but it's so deep. And when a story is short but deep, that's a really good story because you can tell the story very quickly. Like it would be take no time at all to tell the story. And it's got a lot of wisdom to it. But the illustrations I find take away because you're trying to figure out, is that the hummingbird? Which one is this? You know what I mean? So that's why I don't actually like the illustrations that much. But I was talking to another lady and she said, "Oh, I love the illustrations." And I thought, well, I like them as native art, but I think when it comes to the story, they distract. And I think I would have rather seen a real looking hummingbird. I mean, it doesn't have to look exactly real, but it should be something where I'm guessing that it's a hummingbird. You know what I mean? That's how I feel. That's how I feel about it. What about you? What do you guys think? If you were the hummingbird, what would you do? Hmm? What would you do? Any ideas?
Put down the fire.
You would put out the fire?
Mm,
Yeah, I would too. I think I would try to do something, you know. Yeah, so that's Fatima, what do you think? What do you think, Fatima? Okay, I think I'm going to stop recording. Let's